Most construction schedule progress updates are built on little white lies. You ask the progress for an activity and you get back a guess. I think there's 5 days remaining on this activity, or maybe it's 25% done. If you happen to take that schedule out to the field and walk for progress, you end up getting a little bit better information, but it often lacks substance. But what does this actually mean? See, what's happening is there's a disconnect between what is physically happening on site and what you're reporting in your schedule. Without really knowing it, you end up winging your project updates essentially based on what people's gut feeling of what's going on out there. And as it turns out, people's gut feelings are usually over optimistic, setting yourself up and your entire scheduling program with a massive set of lagging indicators. Yet this traditional process is exactly how you start to lose the game of inches. I hear this all the time. Death by a million cuts. We lost a little progress here and a little progress there, and eventually, after weeks and weeks and weeks, the project completely blows up. If you can catch this 5% progress gap in the first week, the problem is solved. If you wait by week 20, it has snowballed into something that cannot be course corrected. A different approach that's available is to digitize the physical world. Enter in reality capture, which is leveraging 360 photos integrated in with the BIM model to give automatic schedule progressing. Sounds too good to be true? Well, we're going to find out today. This technology has been deployed everywhere, from advanced fabrication facilities to hospitals to prisons to data centers to schools. It provides the solutions like what are the granular amount of quantities that were installed this week. Or imagine you've been tracking a run of duct and it stopped, and being able to figure that out why without ever leaving your desk. Or at the end of the project, knowing very definitively how that project was actually built and being able to leverage that data on future projects. Those are the promises that reality capture makes. We brought in BuildDots and Dunn to find out if they were true. We're exploring real project data to get you up to speed on where exactly this technology stands. Let's dig into it. Welcome to the Beyond Deadlines podcast, where we tackle challenges that planning and schedule leaders come across on a day-to-day basis. My name is Micah Pipo, and I'm the CEO of Movar North America.
My name is Brady Mercer, and I lead the planning and scheduling group at Dunn Construction.
Hey guys, my name is Amir Berman, and I'm the VP of Industry Transformation here at BuildDots.
Perfect. Today, we have a great episode for you. We're going to dive into reality capture, and we're not just going to stay surface level. We are going deep into this topic. So if you've heard of companies like BuildDots, you want to understand more about reality capture, this is the episode for you. Brady, to kick us off, why don't you just explain to everyone what is reality capture?
Sure. I would actually start with, let's call this progress tracking with reality capture.
There you go.
I think Amir could probably explain reality capture, just being in the industry and the business focused on this. So basically at a high level, we're merging the reality capture technology, which is the imagery on site, with our schedule and our model to provide this look and then get into progress tracking. Amir, is there anything from a high level to add, or from a BuildDots perspective?
I think that you're spot on. I think that for the listeners, is this what we're calling podcast listeners these days?
You know, I call them psychopathic raving fans who listen every single week and may or may not get Beyond Deadline tattoos. That's typically, But yeah, listeners is probably a good place to start.
Yeah, thank God you're listening, because my wife had enough of that already. So think about it this way: reality capture, which is kind of the OG or the base layer of progress tracking and everything we're talking about, is the simple concept of we're trying to capture whatever is going on behind, around us, and try to digitize it in a way that we can access it. So I think that whenever we think about reality capture these days, think about 360 cameras, right? Now, these guys have been around like for a decade or so, I want to say. Like Holo Builder and Open Space, Instruction Side, they've been around for, I want to say, 9 or 10 years. And these softwares and these companies were kind of the OGs who enabled the concept of let's grab a camera, preferably like a 360 camera, and just like start capture our projects and sites so we can have documentation and later access to everything. So this is what we call reality captures. And by the way, don't hit me, because if you think about laser scanning, these guys have been around us like for ages. So these will be reality capture as well. So that's a reality capture layer. And Brady, what you just said is like building on top of that with what we now call progress tracking, which is the automatic extraction of data and insights and information from that reality capture layer.
Oh, I think I teed it up perfectly. And yeah, that's folks. Today we're going to stay in the progress tracking lane. And so what I'm interested in, Brady, you guys, Jay Dunn, pretty big construction portfolio, a lot of variety of jobs out there. What made you dive in to this as a tool for progress tracking? If I get on LinkedIn and I bring up AI and progress tracking and different sorts of tools and capabilities, the pitchfork people will come out and tell me it's all fool's gold. But here we have you. What sort of things, what sort of problems were you seeing, and how are these helping to solve those sorts of problems?
Sure. Yeah, so let's start with the problem. This is industry problems, and I'm betting anybody listening to this can relate. But our updating process in general, the way we update project schedules, it's super wasteful because we often have to go out and walk the job and collect information. But one, it's surface level for the most part. We talk about activity progress, and then we're like, okay, it started on this date, and 3 days remaining. What does that mean? And so we do this all the time. And I think, regardless of how sophisticated our tools are, it's still just been a traditional way to update for so long that it just lacks substance. And it's not based on anything in reality of like quantities and how much work is truly remaining to put in place, and how it doesn't contemplate manpower. It's just we're winging it type of thing. So that's the one problem. We want to try to figure out how to get past that. Oftentimes we don't have quantities available. And some jobs are more sophisticated that we have that do have the quantities available for the activity. But for the most part, commercial projects at the activity level, we don't have quantities available. And that's a huge disadvantage to not knowing even the amount of work you need to put in place to accomplish that activity.
That's, if you don't mind if I just pop in there, because that's an interesting one that I don't feel, there's a whole breadth of vehicles to go do some sort of project controls scheduling on. And I feel like on one end of the spectrum, you have, large scale EPC work package planning, lots of detail, a lot of process. But then on the other end, you don't get a lot of visibility often into the commercial projects. And just for those people who are unaware, why does that sort of disparity exist on a commercial, maybe smaller project than it would on a large multi-billion-dollar effort?
My quick answer to that would be the clients on the large industrial or semiconductor mission critical, they want certainty of results. So, and it's a higher risk model. They've got a lot more at stake. So oftentimes they're pushing up the requirements and demanding more sophistication and more information and more controls tracking. That drives for us as a general contractor to push for a higher standard. It requires us to. We don't have a choice, and it's actually it's a good thing for us in many places. But let's say the hospital, the elementary school, high school, that commercial tier, you can often get lucky. Let's just say. I mean, I'm kind of throwing that out there and being vulnerable about that, but you can do it. You can do it without all the controls. Now, you could do it better another way, let's say, but you could still get it done and meet the owner's requirements, but just maybe not as efficiently, and maybe the trades aren't as in tune with what's going on. And that's the area of the problem we want to solve, to be able to try to up the bar, and not just the sophisticated projects, but also the commercial work, which is interesting because I look at you would think about what portfolio, what work do we have running BuildDots right now? It's not a bunch of data centers and industrial projects. Most interesting thing is we have an elementary school, a high school, a prison, and a middle school. They're kind of all over the map in places I wouldn't have expected. It's because it's more tangible and approachable for teams. It's just easier to use, the interface that is, and what we have in front of us. Yeah, that's my way to explain that.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. We can get back on track. I just wanted to kind of understand, because that gap sometimes exists. So progress tracking, turns out a person walking out in a field with a paper and pencil, hopefully they're walking out into the field with paper and pencil. They're not just sitting at their desk having a superintendent tell them the numbers on a spreadsheet to update, but they're walking out, they're marking off activities. It doesn't seem like you're getting as an efficient as a process or an accurate as a process. And that, those are some major drivers into progressing. What are some of the other problem areas that exist out there that kind of made you want to go out and try and solve this? Is there, big data problems where you're trying to aggregate more information together, lessons learned? Tell me a little bit more outside of just progress tracking is inefficient.
Visual controls on progress, being able to look at something and clearly see what's done and what isn't done. And, oftentimes, and we can even possibly get into this and see it, but oftentimes you'll have a ductwork run that goes all the way across the building and just stops at the edge. There's a reason that ductwork stopped. And you can go look at the image and clearly see that the exterior framing hasn't been put on, and then get to a bunch of other conclusions. But visual control is majorly important. You can quickly pick up on concerns, or you can get into solving that problem much quicker by being able to see it quickly. Trade performance tools, trade partners, subcontractors, we lack some really good tools to help us forecast and sit down and have good conversations with our trades. And so that's something something that's leading, forecasting more and getting away from our typical variance lagging indicators that we use because we have, but we want to get better there. And then also on the benchmarking and historical piece, we want to have more informed production rates. And currently our production rates, like probably many general contractors, just to confess, it's a lot of, well, so-and-so over at this job said this, so we're going to log it into our corporate, production rate standard. And this trade foreman over here said this, so we're going to log that information in. Not truly always founded on good data in the field. So those are just a few of the things that we identified as they've just been nagging issues that you want to solve, but sometimes you aren't actively trying to solve them because you don't see active solutions out there.
Yeah. I think you really encapsulated the problem set, and I'm sure there's even more of them.
I'm sure there are.
Let's dive into it. Let's pull up something real and kind of walk through what BuildDots, the capability set does, and we can kind of chat about it. If you've been watching the show for a while, you know that I want the very best for you in your career as a construction planner or scheduler. That is why I wrote The Critical Path Career. This is the first book that is specifically geared toward construction planners and schedulers. In it, I provide specific advice on how to get a raise, how to get a promotion, and how to find a new job. I include 26 interview questions and provide the answers so you don't have to go into that next interview not feeling like your most confident self. I also provide 34 impact ideas that you can bring back to your team to help advance how they are planning and scheduling. You'll find a link for the book down below. Thank you for everyone who's supported the show.
I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Got it. See it? Okay. Yep. Amir, you can maybe talk a little bit about BuildDots philosophy and some of these interfaces that you guys put together. I can certainly talk to it from a consumer, a user standpoint.
Yeah, how about I'll start with a bird's eye view of what we're looking at. So what Brady is sharing, and thanks for doing that, this is a view of one of the projects we're working together. Obviously, this project is in very early stages, as the screen kind of dictates, where you can see at the top left where the actual progress on site is 3% comparison to the 4%. Now, what the hell is like 4% and 3%? Where is it coming from? So in a nutshell, what we do as BuildDots is something quite unique. It's like we leverage, all the investment that you guys have been doing around BIM and modeling and coordination. So all the effort and money that you put in there, and we take your 3D models, and at the other side, we're taking your schedules. Those will be your contractual schedules, and in many cases, the operational schedules on site, and we merge them together. So we create a 4D environment, like a data model that represent the project in this case. And once we do that, we kind of prepare the surface to comparing the reality captures with your plans. So in that case, this is a project that just started. And by capturing 360 videos on a regular basis, we can automatically analyze the progress of that project and dictate that it has achieved 3% in total out of the total 4%. Now, this is the bird's eye view, as you can see in the S curve. And on the right side, Brady, I'm not sure if you want to drill into this or I'll do it, but this is kind
Sure.
of a different view for the same data.
I will say on this particular project, when we show, this is obviously an active job. It just started. We are tracking from the overhead rough end. We did not track the structure in BuildDots. So, and this is something we can talk about, the places we're going that we want to go with BuildDots and other reality captures too. We brought in BuildDots because they're great partners with us. We've got probably 5 or 6 active projects going with them, but we do use other tools as well. And the whole point of having this discussion is to get this out there for other people to try and be a part of the future, and more groups and companies and projects to get on board. I believe the higher chance this all has of becoming a standard in the industry. So yeah, we're gonna.
That's awesome. Before we dive into it a little bit, I just kind of orientate people to the
Yep.
dashboard. So
Sure.
progress up on top, that will, I'm guessing, increase as the weeks go along and there's more scope to be increased by. Okay, got that. When we say loosed in, no open tasks, is that the classic P6 open tasks, or is that something else?
So loosen is a concept. Maybe we'll go like a bit more like into the demo. But loosen is a concept where BuildDots can anticipate certain work that needs to happen on site. Let's say that the trade, went into a certain floor to do, a certain activity, but they left like incomplete work behind them. So those will be
Ah,
somewhere in between like incomplete work and snags, right?
yeah,
This one's so early. We don't have any yet.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then you just hire really skilled people, Brady, so they don't actually do that.
That's right. You never have an alert here. Yeah,
Don't need
that's
that feature. Okay, and then you got the big graph on the bottom, the progress, and then you got detailed scopes on the right, and so it looks like those could probably be a little bit configurable to what you want to see based on some basic scopes.
absolutely. It's all configurable to the project. And Amir, if you want to talk a little bit about the whole
Yeah.
setup.
Brady, do you want to go first, like the progress overview, and maybe like we'll explain like the fundamentals?
Sure. Inside of one of these scopes, these trades.
Just like go to the you can progress overview on the left.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So just like to get you up and running with what we do. So this job, we break down the precise progress of each and every activity by location, right? So the top row where you could see floor drains and such, those will be the different activities that BuildDots will track for these job. On a typical job, we'll do like a couple dozens of different activities, starting from facade and external walls, external work, and so on with mechanical rough-ins and finishes and such. So most job will have in between like 50 to 100 different activities. All of these are tracked in different locations. And every time you do a site walk with a 360 camera, we will automatically dictate the progress for each and every activity, and that will be accumulated on top of the previous progress, right?
Now, walk me through a little bit of this. I think that's one of the ones that always caught my brain, and I was always a little confused about. You have model stuff in the model, and you have your Primavera P6 activities. Are you like taking the Primavera P6 activities? You're taking the model. Or are you doing some like meet in the middle type thing?
So we're precisely doing this. We're creating a 4D model where we kind of connect the two together. Now this happens, underneath the hood automatically for our projects. Every time a new project come in, we will merge the two and say, all right, what trades do we have on the job? What activities are they performing? When should they start? When should they end? And for each and every activity, so let's say that we're doing mechanical overhead, right? The P6 file will say there's a mechanical overhead task for a certain trade. What mechanical overhead work does this trade needs to do in each and every area, building, and location? Those kind of elements, to be installed, the overhead work comes from the model, along with the attributes, position, location, dimension, characteristics, and such. So the AI on our side can automatically recognize the position of those elements and to dictate whether they're installed or not and whether they're installed correctly. Make sense?
And
Perfect sense.
Micah, it's not a one-to-one either. We don't have every single activity in the schedule showing up in BuildDots. It's pulling it together in an area. You'll see here. It's essentially by like our WBS, but we don't necessarily go all the way, drill all the way through. The point of just recreating your schedule here, being a productivity tool, we want it to be manageable to the trades, to not go to such a granular level that they can't focus on. And when you're talking about quantities and actual objects that we're installing and lining up, you find that you really don't need that level of detail here, even though you're still communicating with the schedule a bit of a, let's say, a bracket, like we're almost a level of effort approach, catch the first and the last, from the schedule. So it is informed, but it's definitely not a line to line.
That makes perfect sense to me, because even like when I look at this example, like Area E, I guarantee if I walk the job site, everybody knows what Area E is. Like if you were going out to like talk with someone about it, and they would know floor drains, sanitary drains, whatever. If you broke that down into a series of activities, they may not know, A1264, and A1267, even though they're all under Area E. So yeah, that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
And I think that you're touching like a really important point, and it's something that happens with all of our clients. I think that there's like I would say like a certain or distinct gap between like the tools that we're using to plan the job, right? To plan the job or to track it. And on the other side, you have people who actually manage it on the day-to-day. People who will, come on a day-to-day basis, the people that the foreman will work with. And there's like a certain language and a certain kind of precision or like a resolution of how do they manage and control the job. And I think that in many cases there's that gap, even without BuildDots, unrelated. Try to have like a P6 file, like as detailed as possible, and to sit on your look ahead planning or whatever kind of meeting that you have on site. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to navigate between the two.
It's actually also interesting that one of the challenges that we've had to get people to buy into this is, one, it's a new process, right? Anything new, you're going to be challenged. People want to slide back into their old ways of going back to their old updating practices. One of the challenges is simply, how do I trust it? It doesn't look the same as the schedule I've been using my whole career, the approach. So we've really been working with some ways to
the same people be like, I don't trust the schedule either.
Yeah, I know, but this, you can go see this a lot better, and I believe. So I guess it's creating a bit of a almost a rift in thinking, right? You've got the traditional model going on, and then you've got this new progressive approach where now all of a sudden you can see everything and you have quantities, and it's a complete opposite approach. But we have to have the other one too for contracts and still managing our work.
Yeah, and I know you can click through here and get great. Let's keep moving.
Sure.
Keep walking through features, because I think this is super, super interesting.
So let's just pick one here. Just pick plumbing overhead. So I'm in this area here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Notice that it's not all going to be 3D. We've got our flat. So this aligns with the WBS and the schedule. Each area on the drawings is lined up in BuildDots interface. So now I'm looking at plumbing overhead. I see I've got domestic overhead water pipe here is an element from the model. I have 1,451 feet complete and 217 left to complete. So here we are seeing the white, the non-green are not complete. So I can choose to click in here and see, but you can see my total quantities. You can see the planned start date from the schedule, the baseline, and then you have the actual that it actually started. The first recorded progress in this area is what it's going to put down as the start date. So it's giving you your schedule.
Can you uncheck that done on the bottom left so we can just look at the not done?
Oh,
yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, I mean, that is just like, it's just the little things that I always find that can be.
This is a couple little cool little things. I can turn on this 3D view if you're into that. And when you start layering scopes in, this 3D really starts to help. I find myself, though, a lot of times it's in 2D. I just think it's it's a little lighter. It's taken a while to load this, but it's a lot of data. I'm actually gonna I'm just
I
gonna
think that
stop
while
that
it's
because everyone
loading,
knows what
there's
it
like
is.
there's always like that dimension when you speak about tech, which is like we can demonstrate the feature in the tech, and please keep on doing that, Brady. The other part is like I think we need to talk about what kind of conversation does it enable, because
Yeah.
frankly, I think personally that today kind of present construction is almost like I don't want to say undoable, but became like a bit unfair. I think that the magnitude and the complexity of our jobs, especially like think about like the major healthcare project that you're dealing with, or think about like any K-12 that you have a strict deadline, or mission critical and such. It became a bit too complicated for people to kind of to grasp and to control. And it's so easy to miss on the small things, and to quote kind of the famous quote, "If it's a game of inches," like, your ability to win or lose is really determined by inches. Like no one is losing by a mile, right? But if you keep on losing by inches week in, week out, eventually it will add up. And the thing
Yeah.
is, like, so easy to miss on that kind of piece of overhead pipework.
Yeah.
Anyone could have missed it. And when you try to aggregate on the big picture, all of a sudden, you can see that, oh my God, we've been under delivering by just like 10% on a weekly basis for the past 10 weeks. And if we catch it too late before, like, eventually it becomes a snowball, everyone will know that you're behind schedule. Everyone will know that, oh yeah, we're missing on all floors those pieces. And the
Yeah.
key point is that if you can, find those missing pieces, or to find out that you're behind schedule by just like a bit on the second week of the job, it becomes like almost like a day-to-day thing for you to solve, instead of waiting for week 10 or week 20 where it's a bit too late for you to recover.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's where I was looking at this one. And sorry, Ray, can you go back and click the done off and just focus on
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
the not done? I mean, you talk about finishing out a room or being, that activity that stays at 99% or 98% for weeks and weeks while you're waiting to
Hmm.
what's happening. And then you'd have to walk out to the field, get your phone out, take photos of all the pipes that's not done yet, and then try and understand, how does that play into the bigger picture of what's going on? I mean, this is automatic. I mean, so you're saving a ton and ton of hours on that sort of analysis. I think that's super, super interesting. And then you can kind of zoom out on this and understand how the metadata plays into this and everything that's tracked as a part of it. Now, I did see, click on one of those dots because I think it shows you then the last scan. Yeah, so then that's another cool one where you can actually see here is the ceiling. This is what should have been connected, and this is where it's not connected. And Amir,
Yeah,
going back to your point on having those conversations, I mean,
exactly.
that is a very straightforward conversation of, hey, I got these four pipes that need to be connected. Here's a screenshot that took, 30 seconds versus some of the cycles that you'll spend over and over and over. And then here's a question for you, Brady, as my brain starts to fire on this morning. What about do you bring your subcontractors into the portal as well? Or is this kept at arm's distance, or is it a mix of both? Where are you finding success in that?
So, again, new process for us. We've been working with this for a couple of years, but new process for this team because they just started. But the intent here is to have weekly meetings, bring this trade or all of the trades together and look at these views and have a quick discussion. The plumber may quickly say, "Well, yeah, this isn't done because this wall framing wasn't put on. I can't run them down the wall, so why would I finish that last 90 and run down the wall?" Um, and it's like, why? Then you can start asking the question, why isn't the wall done? And how else were you going to get to that conversation? You're going to go walk the job. You're going to go see it maybe 2 weeks later and say, hey, let's get people together and let's huddle up here and let's figure out how to get this moving. It's an RFI that's holding this wall up, let's say. Making
Mm.
that scenario up, but
I like that. Always pointing it back to design's fault.
maybe, or
There's one person we're going to blame. It's the person who's typically never in the room, and it's the design
yeah,
team.
but it's not a blame thing. It is truly a fix. Let's get it going, right? Because that's,
Yeah.
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 Well, because then what they would do is turn around and blame the owner. The owner hasn't given me approval to release the RFI yet.
Sometimes it's like it's a blame game, and sometimes when teams are more mature and more kind of cooperative, it's about like try to find the needle in the hay and say like, hey guys, that RFI that we've been waiting for a while, it holds us back, and this is what it holds us back because we need a decision right here, and that decision for these kind of six pipe not being installed, by the way, is holding up the next trade, which is behind schedule, and BuildDots will tell you that you're like 10 weeks on a projected delay trajectory. So kind of it almost like acts as an outcome kind of tool that says whatever happens, no matter the reason, no matter whose fault it is, this is what happens. This is what we need to solve.
So another thing, Mike,
it's like and it's very what's the word I'm looking for? There's no, it's very matter of fact. It's just this is what happened, and there's no, takes maybe some of the emotions out of it. There was probably like 14 other widget sidebars. And so we can definitely stay in this mode for a long time and geek out on it, but let's dive into a couple other, capabilities.
Maybe how about we go back now to the dashboard now that we understand the context and go into the model. All right. So now that we got the concept of progress tracking and, we figured out the bird's eye view of progress per activity per location, and we saw like the floor plan and we saw the missing kind of elements, I think that one of the key kind of understanding, I wouldn't even call it a feature, one of the key understandings that we've had a few years back is that sometimes people need a bottom line. You kind of need a bottom line that says like, are we on track? Yes or no? Just give me the answer. And if you're on track, good job, keep on doing what you've been doing. But if we're not on track, and if I'm going to know that I'm not on track like in 12, 16 months from now, I want to know it now, because if it's like a small course kind of deviation, I want to fix it right away. So we've added what we call a delay forecast, and maybe it has like a negative sentiment, but it's kind of a straightforward answer that says like, hey, you're on time or not. And if you're not, we're going to tell you like, if you continue this way until the end of the job, this is what's going to happen. So some activities you'll be like 9 weeks behind schedule comparing to your P6. And in some cases you'll be like 17 weeks behind schedule.
Yeah. Well, walk me through a little bit of background of that, because I know my quantity tracking purists will be like, Amir, what is the formula that you're using to lay out the quantities? So you have a P6 activity. It spreads. It has a start and a finish date. Basically, how are those quantities spread then over that start and finish date? Is it just a typical linear spread? Do you adjust it?
No. It's not that. Think about it this way. You have your P6 front, right? Let's say that you have 10 different floors. And we're looking at sanitary pipework, and we're going to have like one line per floor. That's it. You'll have a start date and end date for each and every one. Nice and easy, linear, looks really well. But the thing is that you may have different quantities of sanitary pipework per floor and per building and per area. And let's say that each and every area in the building has different quantities. How do we know the quantities? We've connected to your model. So we know the precise kind of, pipework and design and everything. All of these quantities from the model are being taken off by BuildDots. So we know the precise quantities broken down by element type by location. Now that we know the element type and quantity by location, and we know the start date and end date of each and every line item from the schedule, we can start to organize the required quantities by your deadlines. So what you're seeing here is that sanitary pipework, we can see that it's been 21% completed by now, right? How do we know that? We aggregated the entire progress for that activity. And we can know the precise kind of quantity. You've done a bit of over 1,700 feet out of 8,500. And according to BuildDots, we're estimating that you're going to end up 3 weeks behind schedule, which sounds bad, but it's not too bad because you have so much time to recover, right? It's almost like small deviation. And you can see the plank curve, which is kind of the gray line that sits at the top. And at the bottom, you can see the green line, which indicates the accumulative progress that you've done so far. And based on formulas, and this is where we kind of we welcome all construction geeks out there. Like we're a small group, so we welcome everyone. We can dictate using kind of our AI to say that, hey, if you'll keep up the same way that you've been doing so far, and it's not just like linear average. We look at the precise progress that you've done so far, and we extrapolate like a certain progression till the end. We can see that instead of finishing at July 26, you'll finish on August 26, right? And you, from you as the project team, you will know if you have enough float, if that's on your critical path, if this is something that you can actually live with. And if not, drill down a bit, Brady. Sorry, you can actually see the actual production on a weekly basis at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I can see the graph. The green parts are the actual quantities that the team has been producing on a weekly basis. They started off, around like what is like 300 fit ish a week. At 1 week, they pushed really hard. And if you click on the required pace going forward, you can see what does the team need to do from now on. So you can have a discussion about like, hey, are you aware that you're a bit behind schedule? Do you have enough people, material, available areas for you to ramp up? If so, can you do it right away? Please do, and we'll measure your outcome next week. And just so you'll know, about 2 3 weeks ago, you hit almost 700 feet a week. I'm not sure that I need you to keep on the same pace because maybe you'll hit, you know, a limit. But just so you'll know, this is your capacity. You can actually pull off those numbers, so that's pretty good.
So
Yeah, that bottom chart makes my heart so happy
yeah,
because having those actuals, and Brady and I have worked on a couple projects together, me on the owner side, him on the contractor side. He knows I like to come in and be like, hey, just so you know, by the way, we need to do X and you're doing X minus some level. And it doesn't quite look like you're going to get up there. And so you can kind of have that, like, what's the reality of the situation conversation much, much easier, because without those historical numbers, this goes back to, you say, you death by 1,000 cuts, or you don't know where you are. Oh, we'll just bring in more people, or. And then once they do make that promise, it takes then weeks and weeks and weeks to verify, is that going to happen? And this is just a nice weekly cycle of, we're not telling you to go out and do the 600 and be, supermen and women. Just go out and give me 250 per week and just make sure you're on track. Or I bet there's maybe a bit of conversation about this, is like, are you in the harder section now and you're just going a little bit slower? And then you're getting like middle of the room and you have bigger runs, and you can really start to have those, I think, more thoughtful conversations. I really like that. But one idea that I had though, is when you're talking about 10 floors or 5 floors or whatever it was, and there's X amount of Y amount of feet, do you see this being used on that initial, early baseline or early thing, where let's say it was like a 5-floor facility and they had put, 50 days for each act one, and then you get to one floor and it has like 5X the quantities on it? Do you flag something like that, or is that just kind of seen through the software? Is there anything there that would help somebody out?
you're referring to, like, before we start work, we're like evaluating our plan curves to see if it's consistent,
That's a much cleaner way of saying that. Yes, Brady, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood. The answer to that is, it's on our roadmap. It's something we want to do. Is we're working with Amir closely on to understand. Let's build our schedule, and then let's, as early as possible, engage and put the schedule in against the model, and let's understand, optimize it, right? Let's look at those flat spots. Let's make sure that it's consistent and achievable. That's at that stage when we're buying the job out with the trades, we could bring them in and say, can you hit this production rate? Is that realistic? And I would really like to get to that place where it's a part of our planning piece, right? It's a part of finishing our baseline, where we do this evaluation, make changes, put it back in, relook at it, change it, and then get it really dialed in. I think it has massive potential for that. I believe to achieve that, you got to obviously have to go earlier. And then we start to ask ourselves, is the model ready? Is it the design far enough? So there'll probably always be that tug of war. But I do believe we're seeing more and more well-developed models. It's becoming more of a standard practice that regardless of what market sector you're in, the quality of the model has really pushed far into. I think we're getting there.
Well, and it puts more pressure on that conversation, because you can say, you give me a, back to Brady, when we used to work a little bit on the Google data center projects, and they run their design in parallel for a really long time. If you can make the argument, if you just actually stop designing or give me a design done ahead of time, I can give you a much more confident picture of what your project's duration is going to be like. So I think there's some additional pressure that gets put on that conversation just to
Absolutely.
be more accurate at planning.
It's both pressure and reason.
Yeah.
I think that nowadays, like, high LOD in early stages of project, it makes sense to some extent. But once you kind of throw in another value proposition where as a project, as an owner, all of a sudden you can de-risk your job. How much does it worth to me or to the GC or to the owner or to everyone involved, de-risking the project in pre-GMP or early stages just by comparing your models at whatever stage with your schedule and your assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's data we've never been able to analyze that fully early on. And I would say one thing about this screen we're looking at here, this sells itself. I, as the leader of the planning and scheduling group at J.E. Dunn, did not go out and push this on anyone. This actually fell to me from teams who said, "We're doing this. Let's work together on this." So it's really interesting that shows something. That shows that the team bought into this because it was going to help them. And when it comes down to it, we can actually sit with the trades and we can work with this. Can you do 227 foot a week? Is that possible? Well, I'm gonna have to get a couple more in my crew, and then I got to, whatever, right? We can actually talk about it in real terms instead of just asking, is it 5 days remaining in this area? And now it's talking about performance and also history. If you got a trade telling you I can do 500 foot a week and you haven't produced that, not even close to that once, I would say something happened here. It's an anomaly. We should probably understand that 600 foot that got put in too. What happened there? But it's quite helpful. And you can see here, you got a little flattening out period. That's the holidays, but there's other flat areas that aren't the holidays. And I would want to understand, why are we pretty much not working and then spiking? And as we go into, that get more mature in that, validating the plan piece, I think we'll be able to actually truly drill in and understand those things, which we can, but we haven't gotten there yet.
Looks like you can export any of this data and you can just do whatever you like into Excel. That's definitely cool. Ooh, line of balance.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hot topic. Location-based scheduling. Very cool. Is that
the thing about that? Like, everything has a reason. Like, I think that about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, when we started working with our clients on the delay forecasting and everything, so we started helping them expedite. And we had a number of occasions where teams on different kind of projects, they started accelerating their job, and all of a sudden they hit a wall. And we were like, what the hell happened? Is our software too complicated? Did they just lose motivation? Like, what happened there? You were doing so well. And when we analyzed the data, we saw something which every construction kind of expert now that listens to us say, it's obvious. They hit the
resource constraint.
Yeah. No, they hit the previous trade. So
well,
they ran out of available work. It's all about flow, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that everyone is working in the right pace at the right kind of progress. So line of balance is in BuildDots is a way for you to kind of compare the progress over time for multiple trades, ideally that works in a certain kind of flow together. And you want to answer questions like, is that the root cause that I'm looking at? So if the sanitary pipework are 3 weeks behind schedule, is it their fault? Or is there anyone holding them back? And what's the opportunity for them to accelerate? So in this case, we picked 2 other activities which are following the sanitary pipework. So you wanted to see if the plumbing overhead and the ductwork are actually affected by this, or are they being held back? Right now, it seems that there's a lot of wiggle room between the ductwork and the plumbing overhead and the sanitary pipework. which basically means that those two trades will have a knock-on effect down the line, and they will have a knock-on effect down the line. So what you'll want to do is to pick up from the kind of the activities, the activity that is blocking pipework, and just see if the problem is over there. Just to go down the rabbit hole of the root cause analysis to figure out like what's holding everyone back.
Yeah, I like this because it's kind of, sometimes implementing a full location based planning or line of balance planning system on a project can be very, very daunting. It was like what I mentioned very earlier, there's levels of capability, and going to like a full tack time production system on a project can be a very, very challenging thing to go execute. And this seems like it starts to kind of bring a flavor of that into people's lives in an automatic way without having to go to a full system and teach new people and bring in trainers and reorient people how to do it. I love how that you could just kind of slide that in there. What other stuff we got here? I know we haven't touched on all the widgets on the left side. What are some of the big hitters that we have missed so far?
Yeah, I think I like to be able to look at the trades by trade. So if I open up a trade again, we're now looking at all the scope that trade has to do. But if I go back here, I'll pick one that actually has multiple activities. Right now, I can see where this trade is overall at the trade level, and this trade has several activities to complete on the project. I can drill in and see duct work. I can understand where they're at. They should be planned percent is 23 and 13% is actual. I can get to the area, ultimately work my way through and understand what scope is there, and so what have they completed? It's just a good navigation tool with the trade management piece.
Yeah, I like that too, because then you can kind of see where are they working. Sometimes you work with subs and they have a very coordinated, thoughtful, this is how we're going to go execute a job. Sometimes you work with subs and for whatever reason, they're just all over the place, and it'd be like you pulled up that map and you'd have a couple dots over here, a couple dots over here, a couple dots over there, and they're shoving people at with the work and not really looking through a thoughtful way to go execute it. And then you could catch that super fast.
Absolutely. And just keep moving through a few other things. I really like simple tool here, and it's an explorer, and I can cruise around the building and I can go. There's none of this work is going on here, but I know what space I'm in. Just like this is truly the imagery reality capture piece. But it's pretty helpful just to be able to do that.
And pretty much anyone with a couple minutes of training can go walk the job site for you, right? From what I understand.
Yeah. So so that's the thing. We do a capture once a week. And we usually have 2 or 3 people on the project who are doing the capture, and they follow this path. And it's the capture itself, I believe, is relatively simple to complete. But yeah, that just once a week is a pretty good cadence. We do have some jobs that are doing twice a week. If you got more density, more layers of systems, you want to be on top of it a little more. One thing I didn't show is that if there are layers of systems, and let's say you missed a pipe running through above a duct, you can still manually check it complete. And you can do these things from your app, or you can do them from the desktop. This is another one I really like. I should have set some presets here, but I can go, now let's just look at electrical, plumbing, ductwork, because that's what's going on. I think this tool is pretty powerful. It's showing us now what's, like you said, let's look at what's not done, right? There it all is. So now I can, turn on what's done. I can look at that. I can see the work that's completed. So if you go over here, you can see the gray is not done. The colored is done.
Yeah.
If I could navigate a model, but
that's not why they pay you the big bucks, Brady.
That was not my specialty ever. So this is pretty neat. You can just flip it, the viewable, and you pick the scopes that you want to see, the activities. And this is great for a scheduler doing an update. I don't have to go wait to go call someone. And They're out in the field. They didn't give me an answer. If I'm a remote scheduler, I can fly through here. I can get the rest of the answers I need. And I'm done with my update and ready to go sit down with the team.
Brady, do you see this enabling more remote schedulers in the future where maybe they are not necessarily there every day of the week, but maybe they kind of fly in on a monthly basis if they're creating some owner level deliverables? And, that's another thing
That's
on the smaller
philosophy.
jobs. You may not have the budget for a full-time scheduler or a need for a full-time scheduler.
Right.
So do you see that kind of help augmenting J Dunn's resource pool a little bit?
I think it enables it for sure. It helps it make it happen. We still believe that the team relationship happens in person. You're going to limit yourself, obviously, but let's face it, it's a reality. We're short on resources. This can only help. And a lot of times schedule ends up doing a lot of work that going out and walking the site, while it's super important, but if there's a time constraint, need to get something out and done, you can go get factual, accurate information from here. It's only making your job more efficient. So I don't see the downside.
Yeah, completely agree.
I think
what else we got?
I think we hit most of the things. It does have some neat work planning tools that show you areas that are ready for work. I don't think I haven't really messed with this too much, but it does. It picks it shows you in the graphic of areas that are ready for the trade to go into and work. So you could put an actual work plan together. This could help with your weekly work plan meetings. Pull this up to validate that work truly is ready. It's not just people saying it's ready and planning for it, but you can actually validate it through BuildDots. So
yeah. And Amir, I saw Dot in the in one of those windows. Wouldn't be a great conversation if we didn't talk about AI. Somebody's got to keep talking about it to keep this economy afloat.
That's right.
Walk me through. I know there's a ton of AI going on the back end with the stitching together of the 360 photos and the model and a lot of how you guys do that initial integration. But what else is either on the roadmap or in play, or tell us maybe a little bit about Dot, and then we'll answer the rest of those questions.
All right, let's start with Dot. So obviously BuildDots has been around for ages. And when we talk about AI, there's a lot more than just LLMs. There's computer vision and a bunch of other things that we've been developing. On the Dot front, I think that a lot, like many other companies, we figured out that there's just an opportunity for another way to consume the data. Some of our clients, even though that we think that they know their schedule really well, they know how the project is being built and such, sometimes they just need an answer to what is the status of that trade. Walk me through the list of all incomplete areas where the overhead mechanical hasn't finished the job. Why? Because I have a meeting with them in 5 minutes and I need just a list. So I don't need to go through the overview or the tables and stuff. Just give me an answer. So Dot was created just for that, just for whenever you just need an answer. And you
for all the impatient people out there in the world.
Yeah. I use it often when I just need an answer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, so I think it's a conversational kind of interface that allows you access to all of our data in a way that makes it much more accessible. So this is about Dot. Dot kind of keep on evolving in a way that it knows the impatient people that we are, not hitting the right lingo or the kind of full sentences. It can take a bit, it knows how to handle everything. But talking about the roadmap and going forward, and I think that we're in a very exciting period in time. We kind of reached a situation where figuring out progress tracking in scale to whatever project that will come around, this is massive. This was a major hurdle to come across. And nowadays we can tackle probably everything. We can tackle everything from the biggest manufacturing kind of mission critical projects out there, all the way to healthcare, K-12 and such. And we got the basic progress tracking and forecasting and predictive analytics. This is really good. I think that the next step and the next kind of exciting part about both BuildDots as an industry as a whole is the fact that we can start leveraging data for cross-project organizational kind of learnings that will allow us to kind of escape the whatever 3 to 5% margin kind of gravity force that holds us and prevents us from moving forward. the whole idea of what we're trying to accomplish in the future is kind of to create that escape velocity for organizations who would like to escape that, and to leverage learnings and data and insight from one project to another. I'll give you an example for that. So let's say that we're building like the next high school or next kind of K-12 projects in 2030. Brady would probably, if I wouldn't have the ability to kind of take insights and learnings and, performance metrics from this project that we're looking at onto the project that he'll be doing like 30, 5 years from now. We'll want those teams and those trade to have like an optimal kind of plans be, in front of them. They will want to be performing in a much better kind of stats. So I think that the opportunity that we're going to tackle over the next few years is how to create an organizational tool that allow, JDON and such, not to look at just like one project at a time, but rather like kind of creating those tools to efficiently plan better, deliver better, even faster, for all of these. So this is, I think, we're on the verge of a very exciting time period.
From our perspective, that proposition, the future, is we go pursue a job, or we get ready to baseline a job, and we're looking at our drywall productivity numbers, and they are unlike anything we've ever proved in the past in actuals. We are being way over optimistic, and that bias is probably what hurts most of our whole industry, is because we're so optimistic and we're so gung-ho to provide the solution to satisfy the client, but yet it's not often founded in any reality. It's just it looks good on paper, and yeah, if it looks good on paper, let's go do it. This is just another opportunity in the future, and we're already having this opportunity because we've been leveraging this long enough that we're already seeing data that we're using, and we're able to validate. And we're down to the scope. We're down to looking, is it possible? So that's a huge thing. That's a next level for reducing risk and making solid commitments to our clients. So that's one of I'd say the biggest visions that we have. So
yeah, that's a big one to bite off, and it all starts with having the data to be able to go solve that issue. I mean, you just have a bunch of Primavera P6 schedules and variety of conditions. You're not going to get down to the level of specificity that you probably need to solve those sorts of questions. Like you may have lumped your drywall activities into an early fit out activity in one of your schedules. Your drywall not being broken out. You'd have to go find the models to figure out how much drywall you actually did install. You'd have to ensure all your metadata is in your schedule to ensure that the projects could be tied back to all the other projects. It's a massive hurdle to get over that hump. So I think that is definitely a place to focus. One question I had as we were talking about that, and I know we're kind of getting to the end of this, so feel free to keep this a little bit short, but we have the actual jobs progress. I'm still seeing what's missing is the front end design, and then also on the back end commissioning. Brady, how are you thinking about getting a comprehensive progressing approach? Does BuildDots fit into that? How does that? Because there's a lot there, on both ends. If you perfectly capture this, you're probably still missing a good 30% of project progress.
We're actually working. So right now, when we started BuildDots, we're missing more. We're missing the structure, the exterior skin, the underground, which awesome. There's 2 projects we've got going on where we're tracking underground utilities right now through partnering with Drone Deploy. And we've got structure now that we're tracking down to the joist and member being installed. So we've made advancements just in the last 2 years of things we weren't tracking. All of a sudden now we are. There's always the wire pulls that don't exist, and you can't track them. You can't see them, right? There's a lot of other things. Commissioning is one of those as well, and design. So what do we do with those? Well, one is I just have a reality here that I think there's just going to be different tools to track those because they don't fall under the same rules of basic construction, which is, their construction typically is more linear and, things hand off to another. Design, it's so iterative and circular. I believe it requires a different commitment tracking system if we are doing like a design build. And then commissioning is a whole lot of task lists and when things are ready and there's a whole trigger that goes off that sets a bunch of other people in motion to know that something's ready in that place to go do their work. Right now, those are different systems. I don't know that they ever fit in the BuildDots environment. But I will say we have expanded to capture more of the construction phase. But no, we have not discussed, Amir. I don't know if you guys have plans. We haven't discussed other ways to roll in those other phases front and end of the project.
Yeah, we haven't discussed those, but they're definitely on the radar. I can commit to a specific timeline, but we're constantly looking to expand the duration of of impact on the project, and I'll keep it short. I think that the project can win or lose in all sorts of different stages. If you lose a week on week one, it's the same impact as losing a week on week 50. So the thing is like to keep a finger in the pulse on all different stages, and probably progress tracking or like build outs for design stages will not be the same. You're not going to have like green percentages on your metrics and so on. We'll have like a different form, but we're definitely going to look on value proposition for how to de-risk and to help expedite design stages, commissioning stages, and furthermore, all to a point where organizations will have better tool set to actually control and deliver their projects. So it's definitely on the radar. I can't commit to a specific timeline, but these are things that we're considering at the moment.
That's awesome. Absolutely awesome, dear folks. Thank you much for tuning in this week. I absolutely geeked out on this deep dive. Had a ton of fun. Amir, Brady, thanks so much for coming in and just diving in down and going through it all. I feel much better about it. I think I'm gonna have to use it on my next garden project or something
Feel
like
better
that.
for the future of construction right here.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone is interested in BuildDots, we'll include a link where you can go check it out in the show notes. Probably can reach out to Amir on LinkedIn. We'll include Brady's information as well if you're interested in chatting him up, because he is passionate as I am about this technology. Folks, have a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.